When a mining expedition goes wrong, you get what you deserve. Oh wait, wrong one. Hello, meat beaters. Today we talk about orphans and how to kill them. No, not those kind of orphans. These orphans. The orphans are a result of a disease that lay dormant until the workers of the steelworks released it with an explosion. They are the remnants of humanity and those not chosen to be saved by the collective. Such is our goon. What is the change? Well, simply put, it was the event responsible for the fall of humanity. After the accident in the steelworks, the disease was released, causing the death of many of the miners. When outside forces attempted to remove those infected to either study or to cure them, they unknowingly released the virus that spread rapidly, infecting the world. Those initially infected presented these symptoms: fevers, hallucinations, eyesight deterioration, and severe aggression. Soon, merging became the only way to survive for those infected, creating orphans. The orphans now roam aimlessly in pain, searching for others to merge to. Once they merged, surgery to separate them would be impossible. Now, there is no cure, but it does seem Veronica and the Pathfinder were close before things went horribly wrong. However, Veronica was able to create a poison capable of killing the heart of the hive, as any other attempts to destroy the hive itself is impossible, as it regenerates too fast. So what are orphans? Imagine a symbiotic entity formed through the merging of humans. It's more than just people fusing with each other. It would appear that through this process, new life similar to hive mind was created. All infected sought only to merge even further, but it seems like the more humans merged, the stronger this entity grew. It's like they all had a goal of merging with each other. It's why we see other orphans roaming around in search of others to merge with, and even after death, their bodies could still merge with other orphans. Something deeper than instinct was forcing them to create new life. Those who did not become part of the hive fused with each other, creating stronger, durable versions of themselves. But the disease didn't seem to stop there. It would appear other outer worldly creatures were created from this process, things that simply weren't human. However, the orphans did seem to possess one glaring weakness: fire. Not only would fire stop them from merging, but it would paralyze them for a few seconds. It would also disintegrate the bodies of deceased orphans. There were many orphans, but not all were capable of merging. Those who could had few tiers. This section of the video will go over each orphan and every boss, discussing their appearances and abilities. We begin with the Runner. As the name suggests, this enemy type wastes no time and charges towards its victims, pounding them with their arm. Their appearance compared to other orphans is rather unorthodox. See, compared to its brethren, the Runners are missing their heads, instead being replaced with these bloody tentacles. While the other orphans have extra appendages, the Runner instead seems to be missing one. Interestingly, this might suggest, at least for runners, orphans don't require heads to live. They appear slim in nature with an extended mutated arm. Also, part of their body is covered in blood. The next type is the most common type of orphan. I guess you could say the OG orphan. This enemy can present itself in many different forms, having male and female versions in varying amount of clothes. Their appearance is grotesque and unnerving. Their bodies are completely deformed, and various humans have merged to create this orphan. They can have multiple heads, their jaws are ripped, their bodies are contorted, one of their arms is mutated into large tentacles. However, the most eerie part of this enemy is their pale white eyes. You can almost see the perpetual state of pain they're in. This enemy slowly approaches their victims, attempting to slam their arms onto them. They roam about searching for other orphans to merge with. Their next stage of evolution, once merged, is the Armored Orphan. About 70% of their body is now covered in this hard-like chitinous armor. They appear to become a little redder than their original counterpart, and with their new armor are much harder to take down. If this one is allowed to merge, it reaches their final stage of evolution. The Spiked Orphan, more ferocious than the other two. This enemy is covered in heavier armor and now has spikes protruding out of its body. It deals more damage and can repel normal handgun bullets. However, unlike the Armored Orphan, the Spiked one gains new added appendages to its body and grows in size. The Spitting Orphan. This type of enemy seems to create some type of acidic spit. Its body is covered in multiple arms and seems to appear like the normal orphan. Instead of attacking like the other orphans, this orphan prefers to keep its distance and instead spits at its victims, forcing them to close the gap to kill it. The final evolution is the Spiked Armored Spitting Orphan. This orphan loses the weaknesses its predecessors possessed. Unlike the spitting orphan, who could only fight at a distance, this variant can charge at its victims and pound them with its arm, and unlike the spiked armored orphan, it doesn't solely have to rely on engaging in close quarters and opt to spit at its victims. Furthermore, it can rip its chest open, shooting out tendrils to ensnare and cause damage like the Venus Flytrap orphan. This orphan is the apex of their evolution, achieving what its other variants couldn't: near perfection. Acid pups. These are either found on the biomass waiting for their victims to walk near them, where they proceed to charge and then explode. They can also crawl and explode when near a person, and later they gain the ability to jump and explode. Their appearance seems to be an extremely deformed frog-like person with green pulsating pustules on their backs covered in some type of acid. Venus Flytrap. These orphans seem to have merged with the biomass around them, making it immobile. It appears as if this orphan, compared to the others, is in a higher state of pain, as it's always distinguishable by its grunting. Their appearance is that of some type of conjoined twins, with the larger one having a giant gash across its bloated stomach. This orphan is destined to wait unwanted until finally a victim gets too near and it lunges, these tentacles grasping and causing damage. They do seem to have very low durability. Crawler. Unlike all the other orphans, this type lurks around, crawling on ceilings and walls, waiting for the perfect moment to attack. They seem capable of spitting and vomiting this green acidic poison and can knock down its victims. They are rather long and have multiple legs and arms that allow them to crawl. Their back is rather deformed and multiple heads protrude out of its body. Bruiser. It's larger and heavier compared to its smaller counterpart. The main differences being the Bruiser is capable of a charging attack, more strength and durability. If allowed to merge, it has the same variance as a normal orphan, gaining armor, and then the final evolution, spiked armor. It also appears to have the same variant of a spitter, with the apex of this line being the spiked armored spitting Bruiser. It's basically the same, with the exceptions being more health, durability, strength, and decharging ability. Those were all the normal orphans you can come across in Noahuta. However, the disease has created stronger mutations. Before we go over these bosses, I want to go over the Hive. Essentially, it's just an extended area covered in this living biomass. Various orphans are found within the Hive. We got to see one in the hospital, where most of the building was covered in this landfill of biomass. Unlike the orphans, who can be killed and have a glaring weakness to fire, the Hive can regenerate from any damage. It possesses a heart, and the only way of destroying one is by using the poison created by Veronica. The Unmerged One. Unlike your typical orphan, this variant is completely devoid of any human appearance. Its entire body is black and covered in tentacles. It uses its arms to smash its victims, dealing heavy damage. However, it has these orange glowing pustules, and destroying them is the only way to kill one. It can dissolve itself, disappearing for a few seconds, and can cover small areas with its body. Stepping on these tendrils will slow its victims down, allowing it time to catch up. The Terror. It's a quadrupedal orphan. One of his arms carries what resembles to be the torso and the head of another merged orphan. Its body is a mangled mess of biomass and merged orphans, and even has a tail it can swing around. Its face is a large red gaping hole from which it can emit a screeching howl. It can cause shockwaves on the ground and destroy pillars by pounding the ground. Furthermore, the second time we encounter a Terror, it can now spit green acid from its mouth, but unlike the other orphans, it can spit a vacuum of acid and can summon acid pups, being one of the few orphans capable of summoning other orphans. The Unmerged Terror. It seems to be a merge between an unmerged and a terror. It retains their strength and weaknesses except for the spitting factor. The only way of beating it is by injuring it with fire so that the orange pustules can be revealed. However, unlike before, this creature will chase you relentlessly and possesses a unique ability. Similar to how the Unmerged One can disappear, the Unmerged Terror can do the same. When it uses this ability, the surrounding area becomes dark, allowing it to show up anywhere it chooses. Mother Eliza, the only sentient orphan capable of speech. Her body is deformed and composed of dozens if not hundreds of orphans, making her abnormally large, and wears a black veil over her face. Arms protrude out of her body almost as if grasping at something that they will never be able to obtain. their freedom. She is the only one that cannot be directly hurt and instead can only be killed by destroying all the orange balls of mass around her. And like the second terror we encounter, she can summon orphans but at a higher level. She spits acid and summons runners to kill her victims. Her body seems to extend across the area as the biomass allows her to summon a large tendril that harms anybody within it. After a certain amount of her balls are destroyed, she enters into a frenzy where she will vomit a pool of acid from the large gash between her chests. She will then begin to summon acid pups and more runners to kill her victim. That is all of them, for now at least. If I'm being honest, the lack of boss variation was a little underwhelming. Like, we had a lot of enemies, but it was just a few who could merge and just become a stronger variant. And the only cool boss that stood out was Mother Eliza. If we could have more enemies like her, I think the Orphans would be one of my favorite types of enemies in any game. However, I will say this, even though the Orphans did not have much variation to them, if you allow them to merge, oh boy, especially the Bruiser, those things were a pain to kill. But that's it. Those are all the Orphans. Which is your favorite Orphan? I'd have to say mine would have to be the Mother. But if I missed or got anything wrong, please let me know. Oh, and disclaimer, there isn't much information of the Orphans, like names and stuff, so I might have not gotten many things correct. I will be fixing anything I got wrong in the future. Like, sub, or don't, as long as you enjoyed the video. Deuces, Gooners.